Frank. What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
Hey, we could go to the park.
Oh, no, we can't. The cops said they'd shoot us if we go back to the park.
Yeah, and I ain't in no mood to go tonight.
I like death.
Greetings, ghouls, and welcome to Minute 45 of Do You Want to Party, the Movies by Minute podcast for the 1985 groundbreaking horror classic, The Return of the Living Dead. I'm your host, Troy, and this particular episode has been marked as a special occasion because while I do not have an actual co-host with me with this particular episode, the reason being that I recently did an interview with Alan Trutman himself, the gentleman that portrays Tarman in this movie, and he graciously allowed me to interview him for a little bit, and we got to talking about his early career, his experiences with this movie, what he did afterwards, and basically pretty much covering a lot of his actually career, both acting and his puppetry and all that sort of thing. So over the next couple of episodes that do feature Tarman in it, I'm going to be splicing bits and pieces of that particular interview into the actual episode itself. So for this particular one, it's a big chunk of the conversation that we had talking about the actual getting the job of Tarman and actually working on set and all that sort of thing. So I figured I would just talk mostly about the bare bones of the actual episode itself, like I normally do. Unfortunately, I just won't have any interaction with another co-host, but it'll just give me enough room to be able to put a good portion of Alan's interview into this episode. So hopefully you also come back for future installments of him talking and all that. And again, on the horizon, I have a couple of other surprises, hopefully coming to fruition. So to begin with, minute 45 starts with Tina descending the steps and ends with Tina falling through the third step. Tina has made it to the turn of the steps, the platform where she passes briefly and yet again calls out.
Anybody here?
The creepy music builds in the background, making the mood hauntingly unsettling. She takes the last 5 steps to the basement floor. Now silhouetted by the dim, exposed light bulb behind her, a big, greasy-looking tarp extends past the stairs, creating a makeshift hallway for Tina to have to traverse. As she steps around the false wall, Tina surveys the environment, just as dirty and messy as before. From a shot behind the barrels, Tina is in her pristine, clean outfit, which stands out amongst the mess. The observation of the situation points out that way back in minute 1551, Frank clearly closes the convex lid of the seemingly empty container because of the body having been evaporated when it hit the air. Walking under the Chekhov's chain, Tina turns to look directly at the canister. The busted glass window, slick oily substance coating the surface, still clutching Freddy's hat to her, she steps forward. Back to a POV as she approaches the 6 canisters. We now see Tina lean forward to peer inside, her face twisting as she pulls back quickly from the obviously repulsive smell. She steps back a bit and hears something that makes her question the presence of someone down there with her.
Who's there?
From within the darkness, tucked behind an iron heater, a wooden cabinet, blue plastic circular bins, and an area of mess of discarded papers and cobwebs, dust and tarps, slinking forward, the wet, oily body undulates almost jointlessly. We get the briefest glimpse of an exposed ribcage, a showing radius, and as well as some carpals and metacarpal bones. Cutting to a Hitchcock-style zoom of Tina, startled face, eyes wide with surprise, mouth dropped open as if she soundlessly screams. The grotesque face of the creature moves into the light, its slimy brown and black surface dripping, a pus-like substance dripping off its outstanding high points, cheekbones, and ears. The eyes big and wide, seeing the material of its eyelids melted away, along with its nose and lips, exposing everything normally concealed. Surprisingly healthy white teeth. Its mouth opens, black beyond the mouth opening. Its tongue shoots out, delivering the iconic line. Its cheeks slightly shifting. Without haste, a still jaw-dropped Tina dashes past the chain and around the tarp, rushing at the stairs. Now, having stepped further into the room, we see the full form of the drippy, oily walking corpse. Again, in its deep guttural moan, calls out again for a source of substance. A simple cloth around its shoulder suggesting the remnants of an outfit. Huge sections of flesh having fallen away, exposing brownish bone beneath. The creature's skull now can be seen, coated with the surface of blood and slime. Clearly, its femur sticking out from what little flesh is still holding it together. It shifts its position in a fluid motion. Tina, now heading up the last of her stairs to freedom, finally lets out a scream as that bitch of a third step gives way, forcing her to grab at the remaining step, her lower body dangling. Her left foot hung up on the fourth step, making it look even more painful. Meanwhile, back in the car, Trash helplessly tries holding closed the open of the roof above her. In an unchuck manner, Chuck expresses loudly his need to vacate this environment and meet up where the other friends should be.
Hey, I gotta get out of here. Let's go over to where Tina and Freddy are.
Both Suicide and Scuzz second that idea.
Damn right. Fucking A, come on.
As everyone starts to exit the car. Meanwhile, back at the stairwell, Tina desperately clings to the stairs, hopelessly trying to pull herself up. The slimy corpse holding the banister has finally made his way to the platform at the turn of the steps. From behind, its spine and shoulder blades can be seen. As it's about to start up the steps behind Tina, it calls out the freshness of its desired meal. And with another cry of fear, Tina drops completely through the new hole in the stairs, crashing hard to the ground below, and yet another cry of fear and pain. Having left Freddy's hat on the second step, the tarman looks through the steps at his still moving meal. So at this particular minute, we're going to actually enter the interview at this particular point. Obviously, then, from what I've ascertained from your IMDb, Tarman is pretty much your first acting role, I guess.
in a movie, yeah.
Yeah.
I had done just little tiny walk-on things. I think I was in,
Gotcha.
what was that? Van Nuys Boulevard, like a cruising movie from the 80s.
Okay. All right.
Just a silly guy. And there's one scene where they go to the hospital, and I was like a glorified extra. They didn't want me to say any lines, because if you didn't say any lines, they don't have to pay.
They didn't have to pay you as much. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I was just this guy who at the emergency room had a bowling ball stuck in his finger.
Nice.
So that was it. It was all just reactions.
Gotcha.
In any event, yes, that was like the first legitimate movie role I had.
Wow.
Which, let's face it, it's a very unusual thing.
For sure, yeah.
And it could have, if there were more roles like that, the kind of thing that that Doug Jones does, now with Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
That kind of volume of work, there just wasn't that much of that kind of work happening back in the 80s,
Right. Also, I don't even think people were even thinking that it was possible to do that sort of stuff. And I mean, that's another reason why Tarman is such a groundbreaking character, because of your physicality in that costume, and the portrayal of it is just iconic. Because it would take decades for even, I mean, sure, we had Bob from Dawn of the Dead, the army guy zombie that was sort of made his personality come through, but other than that, Tarman is the standout of zombies for the longest time, which is
Thanks.
fantastic. So, could you go into a little bit of how you came about getting the role of Tarman? I mean, it'd be silly for me to have a podcast about this movie and not ask you questions
Oh,
about
sure.
Tarman. So,
It was like any other acting audition, and it was the same for, well, not well, yeah. Initially, it was the same for all of us,
hmm.
and it was the same as any other
Okay.
job I auditioned for.
Right, right.
They sent me the sides, which are just the pages that I would
Yeah.
be
Yeah, yeah.
auditioning with, and you audition for a casting director
Right.
first, and they put you on tape, the big old VHS tape back
Exactly, yeah.
then. And it was, it wasn't a lot of dialogue.
No, definitely
But
not. No.
I just did what I thought made sense in
Okay.
the context of the scene,
Right.
and I got called back read for
Hmm.
Dan O'Bannon, the
Hmm.
director, and I imagine there were a couple of producers there. I don't really remember too much about that.
Right.
It's 40 years
Yeah,
ago.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast today. But And I remember Dan, really the only direction he gave me in the audition was that he wanted to see me thinking. He wanted, he didn't want
Okay.
dumb zombies,
Right. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Okay.
And so I was doing the whole scene with the winch, and chasing
Hmm.
it
Yes. Yeah.
and trying to figure out, all of the mechanics of it. So he just wanted to see the thinking process. Now, by this point, I had worked a number of times. I'd established a career as a puppeteer,
Right.
as well as an actor, established. Yeah, I was working as
Yes.
much as
Yeah.
I could as a
Right.
puppeteer. And that's what we do as a puppeteer is try and make these inanimate objects
Oh,
think and
that's true.
feel,
Yeah. Of
you know?
course. Yeah.
So I kind of had a feel for, I mean that because that's what Tarman is essentially. It's a
Hmm.
full body puppet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I kind of understood instinctually that you can't just act normally. You have to think of kind of manipulating the suit,
Hmm.
not just, but you have to sort of be all present. So it's acting
Yes.
plus, you
Yes.
know. A lot of people think it's like acting less, but it's not.
Oh,
It's
no, no,
acting
definitely.
plus.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that may have made the difference for me. I have no idea, obviously, who else they they saw for the role,
Right.
what specifically they saw in me that they liked.
Hmm.
But other than the fact that I was 6'2" and 155
I was about
pounds,
to say, yeah, tall, skinny guy, right? Yeah. So
exactly,
you
that
weren't
I
like
fit in the
work,
suit.
yeah, you weren't in a room with a bunch of other tall, skinny guys sitting around waiting for your turn to audition or that?
I probably was, but I don't recall.
Gotcha.
I'm
Gotcha.
used to
Okay.
walking into an audition and thinking, "Oh my God, everybody looks like me." Although usually for me, because I have a pretty unusual look, the call goes out not for a specific type, but for but unusual look, a
Ah,
unique look.
yes, of
So
course.
I walk into
Right.
the room and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's like a freak show in here." Is this how they see me? Oh, geez.
All right. So, once you got the role of Tarman, now I take it they built. Now, was the costume pre-built and you just happened to no? So they built it right off of you and all that sort of thing. So
Bill
that was
Nunn's
okay. Good.
literally built it on me.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, he had some stuff ready to go,
Hmm.
but he didn't use they didn't do a body cast.
Okay.
Didn't use like a mannequin that was
Right.
dress mannequin that was adjusted to my size. I just remember standing there, and the base was just a leotard, top and
Okay.
bottom,
Right. Right.
and he was literally gluing the pieces on,
Ah, I
assembling
see.
it,
I
and
see.
sort of figuring
Gotcha.
out which, he had created all of these foam rubber drips
Hmm.
individually, and he just sort of placed them all on my body all of
Okay.
a
Okay.
sudden. like shingles on a roof.
Gotcha. All right.
Starting at the bottom, working up.
Working way up, right? Layer of over layer. Okay,
Exactly.
cool. And how long did that process usually take? Like, obviously, I'm sure for however long you were on
Well,
doing the
that was just
costume.
a one-time thing.
Oh,
He
really?
was assembling the whole thing and gluing
Okay,
it onto the leotard, and then
right.
later I just take
Oh
leotard
no,
off,
but yeah, I
put the
understand.
leotard.
Right. I guess then, yeah,
Yeah,
because if it's attached to the leotard, you just zip yourself in and out of it, sort of thing. When
yeah,
you,
and it was the
right?
same thing
Okay,
with the head,
with the head,
because
yeah,
it wasn't prosthetics that I had to sit in a chair while they glued
yeah.
stuff
It's
on me.
like a
It
helmet
was
almost, right?
like a Darth
Yeah.
Vader helmet,
Yeah. Okay. Nice. So I guess the process would have been pretty simple then, especially for what they do nowadays, sort of
Yeah,
to, oh,
yeah. It was
that's
a
fantastic.
top. It was very old school kind of. It was a top,
Nice.
a bottom, shoes, gloves, and
Mm-hmm.
the head.
Okay.
And then, of course, they had to glue down. The head had pieces hanging off of it, and
Yeah.
they glued those down so I
Right.
was pretty sealed in pretty tight there.
Gotcha. So like what was like how long were you basically working on the movie? Like I'm pretty sure they probably would have shot all your stuff pretty much all at the same time, or did they do it
Pretty
in,
much.
yeah? Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I worked more than over a 2 week span.
Okay.
Probably no more than 10 days. Yeah.
Right.
Week and a half. I don't really
Right.
remember.
Yeah,
Um,
because you're in like basically two locations. You're in the basement scene and you're in the just
right.
inside the warehouse scene up the top of the stairs,
Right.
which,
And the shooting for all of that went pretty fast.
yeah, from what I figured out from my research, it's like, wow, this is pretty well. Now, were you involved with the like the rehearsals sequences and all that before and all that? Okay, so you were just, gotcha.
Yeah, he
Okay.
wanted to rehearse the main characters to get them
Right.
in
Yeah.
sync. And
I
plus, it was
guess I
his
guess they
first
probably wanted
time
to leave
directing.
you as more of a surprise, sort
Well,
of.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he really preferred that, especially when Tina discovers me, he was
Mm-hmm.
trying to keep it so that it was a real reaction. It's
Right.
kind of hard to do because you can only do that once.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too. That's true
But
too.
for the most part, people just kind of kept their distance from me anyway.
I can see from some of
Once I
the,
had the suit on, it was
yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
is there somebody in there? I'm
Yeah.
afraid to go over there and talk to that thing.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of behind the scenes pictures and they're like, people seem to clear away from you and all that sort of thing. Like people obviously like stagehands and all that sort of thing working on you or something like that. A little bit of touch up with makeup and whatnot. But
Yeah.
so we'll bring back in future episodes again featuring Tarman, where we'll put more of Alan Trotman's actual like career, his stuff prior to and after the role of Tarman. So for now, we'll go on to the commentary track, which is with director and writer Dan O'Bannon and William Stout, who is the production designer. William Stout starts off by pointing out Beverly, who is Tina, is a blonde in that she has a twin, of which Dan O'Bannon confesses not knowing that. Now, Dan O'Bannon mentions that this upcoming moment that he and William Stout take great pride in. The Tarman is called that because it looks like tar, even though it's just the result of rotting flesh. He asks as he reflects with William how hard they worked on Tarman. William Stout explains how lucky they were to get Alan Trotman to be in the suit. Dan O'Bannon excitedly points out the dolly zoom on Tina and how it works psychologically. William Stout calls it the psycho shot, only to quickly correct himself before referring it to the vertigo shot. Dan O'Bannon points out how the Spielberg used the same thing in Jaws, of which he confesses to stealing from that and not Hitchcock. When we see Tarman on the steps, Dan O'Bannon mentions how he wanted a tall mime to portray the role. And that's where the particular minute ends with the commentary track, so we're going to stop right there. According to the script. So again, this is a story and screenplay by Dan O'Bannon. The version we are using is the revision from October 1983, and this is based on a story and screenplay by John Russo, Rudy Rickey, and Russell Steiner. So we're just going to back up to where Tina actually enters the basement itself just to catch up with a little bit of what's going on. All right. Interior, basement, night, rain. As she steps onto the third step, it creaks and shifts under her foot. She glances down at it and keeps descending the stairs. At the bottom of the steps, she looks around. Bare electronic bulbs glowing. Dust all over the place. Tina. Geez, what's that smell? Anybody here? She looks over and sees a huge canister, the one labeled Property Department of the Army. She walks over to them. The nearest one has obviously been opened. The lid is up with a sign of disturbance in the dust that coats it. Curiosity overtakes her. She raises the lid of the tank and looks down into it. The glass that formerly sealed it shattered, smashed away. In the bottom of the tank is nothing except some black sludge. She wrinkles her nose at the stench. Stronger here. Her eyes go from the black slime in the tank to the floor next to the tank. There is some more of the slime on the floor, and it trails off, leading away from the tank. The trail of liquid, which it has smeared appearance, leads over to the corner of the cellar, back behind some crates, in the black shadows. Something moves in the shadows. Tina stiffens. Tina, tense. Who's there? Something starts to shuffle forward, out of the shadows. First, we see its feet. Then the rest of it comes into the light. As this hideous, horrible monstrosity, it is the body that was in the tank. It is a skeleton covered with black Atari glope, wobbly and loathsome. It speaks in a voice like vomit. Tarman. Brains! Brains! It shuffles towards Tina, waving its arms at her. She does not scream. Instead, she gasps, a huge intake of hair that fills her entire chest cavity, and her eyes get huge and round as saucers. She turns and runs for the stairs, dashes up them, gasping and panting in horror. As she hits the third step from the top, coming down on it with her weight, it gives way, splintering with a loud noise and collapsing. Tina's legs go through the step as it caves in and falls down on her hip. She hangs there for a second with one leg poking through, kicking and crying to try to find purchase. She clutches at the stairs and wails with her arms and turns and looks back down the stairs behind her. The thing is starting up the steps, leaving a black trail behind it. Tarman. Brains! She screams now and tries to claw herself upright. But at that second, another step gives in and she falls through the stairs. She lands, thud, on the concrete below the steps. She lies there, gasping in pain, trying to pull herself upright. Tina, in pain. Oh, oh. The tar man turns and starts back down the steps, towards her, slopping along. Tina pulls herself upright and limps out from under the steps. The tar man is blocking her way up the stairs. It starts towards her, reaching for her. Tarman. Live brains. Now, the script continues on with this scene a little bit, where Tina gets into the closet and whatnot, and then it gets to the punks inside the actual car. So we'll jump down to that. Cut to interior, punks, car, night, rain. Chuck. I gotta get out of here. Let's get out of here to where Tina and Freddy are. Suicide. Yeah, damn right. Scuzz. Fucking A. They jump out of the car and dash across the street. And then that's basically where the minute ends for them. And then we cut back to the Tina falling all the way through the steps and all that sort of thing. So, and that's what we got for according to the script. We now go on to the work print comparison, which is what they do is when they film the entirety of the movie, they take all the shots that they want to use and compile it into a full version of the movie. They then take that and edit it down to the smaller version, which we have as a final film. As Like I said, the comparison, this is minute 44 to 45. And in the work print, we are actually dealing with minute 50:30 to 51:41. So that's what we got. It starts with Tina taking one more step before stopping at the top of the final steps. There is no POV shot. We watch from behind the canisters as Tina walks towards them. The reveal of Tarman from his hiding place is much longer, actually getting to see his whole body and head emerge from the dark, making jaw-opening moves. However, there is no close-up of Tarman's face. Also, the footage follows Tina up the stairs and falling through, explaining the lack of slime on the insert shot of Tarman. We also see more of Tarman going up the steps. The rest plays out as in the final film. All right, so that concludes this particular episode and all that. I hope you enjoyed the Alan Trotman, the portion of the interview and all that sort of thing. I want to tell you, while I mentioned a couple times during the actual at the end of the interview, which I will eventually get to, I also want to state that Alan giving me the time that he did was fantastic. I had approached him several months ago when I started this project, and we were back and forth with some emails and all that sort of thing. And then it came around to getting closer to the time because I wanted to interview him closer to the time when I was going to be recording the actual Tarman appearance and all that sort of thing. So again, he was very grateful with the time that he gave me, and I thank him again. I cannot thank him enough for making this a special part of my program. It's been a fantastic thing. Not only am I working with people that I enjoy working with, having someone who is actually involved with this with the movie to begin with, being part of my project just is so fantastic. And I couldn't have been any luckier for that to have happened. So again, Alan, if you're listening to this, thank you once again. And I can't wait for the rest of my audience to hear more about you and your life other than Tarman, which again, people is a fascinating life. If you don't know any more about Alan, stay tuned for the next stuff because this gentleman is so amazingly talented. He's currently doing a bunch of different tours with the actual the cast that is currently, because of the 40th anniversary, a lot of conventions over this year are doing get-togethers of as many members of the cast as possible. Alan has been to a couple and is going to a few in the future. So if they are anywhere near you, do yourself a favor. You love this movie, you got to get yourself to any of those conventions and just like they're fantastic people from stories I've heard and interviews I've seen. And these just are like a fantastic group of actors and whatnot. And again, I want to thank the audience for joining me for this particular episode, not just this particular episode, for all these episodes that I'm doing. The journey is a fun one. I'm really enjoying the stuff that's going on, and it's again remarkable seeing the interaction that I'm getting with the audience and all that. It took a little while, and now that I'm becoming more engaged with people that are engaging with the podcast, which is a fantastic thing. I've never had this sort of response to anything that I've done in the past. And I just want to thank everyone for listening or watching or however you're interacting with this current thing that you are watching or listening to. Also, I want to point out that we are still taking donations for us to do our 40th anniversary episode, which is going to be taking place on August 16th of 2025. In the show notes, there will be a link to our ko-fi.com/ Planet Geek Pod donation page to help us get the ball rolling on getting this to be done, which is something we are looking forward to, which we will be not only recording a live episode of, I believe it is minute 62 of the podcast, but we will also be in front of an audience showing a version of this movie in an actual movie theater that we have rented. So that's what all the funds are going to towards the rental of the theater and the showing of the movie. And our time to record the podcast. So again, show notes for our donations and all that sort of thing. Again, I got nothing else to say, but thanks and see you next Wednesday. You've just been listening to a Planet Geek production of Do You Want to Party? A Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 The Return of the Living Dead. Please be sure to subscribe, download, comment, share, rate, and review. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, or Letterboxd. Search for Planet Geek Productions. X, former Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, search for Planet Geek Pod. Or send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Our closing music is provided by Night Chill. See the show notes for more details. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and farewell, fiends.